if you want to get your mind in the right place, you have to work at it. You can't just say, I need to be more positive and expect it to happen.
In today's episode, Courtney and I sit down with Ryan Salonia, and we are going to dive into a lot of aspects. It's an absolutely amazing conversation. First, we dive into what it takes to develop a winning culture, focus on positivity and having the right mindset. Then we're going to dive into what's currently going on in today's environment, today's industry with rate increases, and how his team is viewing that and the mindset shift they have taken in taking these so-called tough conversations or service transactions and turning them into opportunities that has increased not only production, but also retention. We're going to dive into some promos that he does for his team to help make sure his team is always staying on top of their game, making sure they are staying focused on what matters the most, and some life insurance strategies as well. So with that being said, let's start the show. Hey, welcome to the Insurance Buzz. We are your hosts, Michael and Courtney Weaver, and we have a special guest with us today, Ryan Salonia. Ryan, how are you?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
And thank you so much for your time today. We are excited. We're going to be talking everything from leadership to mindset, maybe some life insurance.
All right. Sounds great. Sounds fantastic.
Ryan, I want to jump right in because I'm always curious about the person behind the mindset, the leadership, the life insurance. How did you get into insurance and what really brought you down that path?
Yeah. So, my story is all about family, and it's my family that got me into the insurance business. So, as a young person, my first job was at 13 years old, working in the basement of a restaurant for $3 an hour, washing dishes. And, I looked at it even at a young age, like you got to work your way up. And this is where I'm at right now, right? So work hard and playing hard will come later. So that's always been my mentality, although I've run through some trials and tribulations and, like many of us, but it's always been at the core of who I am. And from a distance, I would always admire my uncle and his lifestyle, and the flexibility and the freedom and the success and everything that goes along with that. And he was a State Farm agent for 45 years. So that's where it initially started for me. And then just, as I got older, started work in his office, and then of course worked for the company with the ultimate goal. After 10 years of working in operations, the goal was to start my own agency. So that's how I got into the business.
So you brought up something there, and I love this, and this is probably going to lead us down a mindset path, but you were talking about the $3 an hour job, and you work hard now so you can play hard later. That whole concept of delayed gratification. Talk to me about how that relates in the insurance space, especially when you're talking about producers and training new people. How are you cultivating that? Like, this is what we have to do today, and this is what we get later on.
Yeah. So, I've never felt entitled. However, when we're interviewing candidates to join our team, and we are a lean and mean team. I mean, my team consists of two producers, and the rest do a variety of things from retention to appointment setting. But the type of people that we're looking for, the type of people that understand, just like I did at a young age, that, you have to work your way up, and it's not just so that we could pound our chest and say, do you know how long it took me to get where I am? It's because you're learning along the way. And we're always learning. So I'm looking for people that are hungry and want to learn. I'm not looking for people that want a job. I'm looking for people that want to have a career in insurance. And so my role is to make sure that I make it very clear to them what that opportunity looks like. No matter if I'm hiring them as a producer or I'm hiring them to scan and attach documents, I want them to see the opportunity for what it truly is, because we are very blessed. I feel very blessed in what I do. I mean, really, at the end of the day, there is no limit to our success, right? It all depends on how much work that you want to put into it. So it's that type of person that I'm looking to be part of my team. And I think that because we have people like that, and we're constantly talking about taking it to the next level, never being comfortable with a 100%. Once you hit 100%, we want 110. Then we want 120, right? We're never going to settle. Average is not even in our vocabulary. And finding people like that, you can do more with less. And that's what we currently have in my office.
And I absolutely, I love that growth mentality. I want to go into something just real fast though, that you just hit on that sparked my curiosity. So you run a lean and mean shop. All right. And that's the beautiful thing about agency ownership is you can have huge teams. We always ran lean and mean as well. So I would love to know kind of your thought process on why you are running lean and mean right now, why you've chosen that. And do you plan on continuing to go that route or are you going to try to build a larger team?
Yeah. So the reason why we're at this point, and I've been an agent for 15 years. Okay, and the maximum amount of team members that I've ever had was 6, and the least that I've ever had was 3 full-time and 1 part-time. So right now we're at 4 full-time and 1 part-time, and the reason why is because I am very satisfied with the level of production. Not only the production, but also the quality of the service. Right. So I'm not feeling like there's missed opportunities. I'm not feeling at this point in time that, things are getting missed, services getting missed, right? Because of the way we've trained, the way I motivate and keep them focused. We're getting the job done. Okay. I think we're at right now 185 issued life policies. So, feeling very, very good about that. And as far as our queues are typically, done by the end of the day. However, as we all know, as your book grows, there's limits to everything. Mm-hmm. So we're in the process right now of actually hiring. I got with agency recruiting with Alex, and we're in the process of interviewing for 1, possibly 2 more customer service representatives, because the customer representatives, the customer service reps in my office don't just attach documents all day. They do a lot of appointment setting. They're taking the brunt of the calls, but they're trained within compliance to be looking for the opportunity. And I feel like that is some of the key to our success. How are you hitting certain levels with just 2 life producers? How are you doing that? It's because everybody has skin in the game. Everybody is aware of the opportunity with every phone call, every text, and every email.
Yep. Yeah. So your CSRs, I mean, not only they're retention specialists, but they're looking for opportunities for your sales team, which I love that. And you're diving even heavier into the retention from hiring to more retention. So talk to us a little bit about that thought process, because some individuals listening might be like, well, why aren't you going the producer route?
That was my question. Yeah.
Guys.
Yeah. Because, and I guess, I know it's because of the producers that I currently have, the 2 producers that I currently have, and the quality job that they do. The one has been with me for 15 years. The other one's been with me for 6 years. And they're very aware that if I ever get to a point where, leads are coming in, calls are coming in, walk-ins are coming in, and I'm seeing that things are not getting addressed within, a reasonable time frame, it's time to get another producer. So they're well aware of that. And they're also aware that they can come to me at any point in time if they start to feel burnt out. And I've made them very aware that even if I at some point decide to bring in another producer, that shouldn't be looked at as now I'm taking opportunity away from him. So I've had that conversation with them, right? I kind of try to think like they would think. And because if they start to come to work every day thinking that if Ryan brings in another producer, if I decide to go that route, that this opportunity is not going to be as good as it is today, they're not going to come to the job as motivated and positive as they need them to. So I've reassured them that it will never come to that, ever. But where we are right now, and the things that I'm looking at, I don't feel that there's a need for a producer. I don't need 2 additional rock stars. What I do need are people that are teeing it up, more people that are teeing up the opportunities. But keeping an eye on the production level just to make sure that, at some point I might need to add another one. But right now, no, I'm not needing it.
Well, and you said earlier, you're happy right now with the quality of your production, where it's at, the retention. The one thing that I would also assume you're happy with as well right now is your quality of life. All right, because that goes into scaling a business. Like sometimes, and so I love that you're going the route of doubling down on retention right now too, which I actually think is extremely important for where we are in the industry, and some things that are going to happen over the next 18 to 36 months.
Absolutely. The phones are ringing more. We're getting more volume. We're getting more service volume, and some of that is coming off of the fact that rates are changing, right? We're all aware of that. But what I'll remind my team is that with all of those servicing requests, the 4 appointments that we had this morning were all in regard to rate increases. Okay. And as a result of 4 of those appointments, we wrote 1 life insurance policy, an umbrella, and a personal article policy off of 4 appointments that had all to do with rate increases, right? So that gets into, what are you doing in these appointments? What are you saying when the appointment is set up for the sole fact that my rate went up again and I'm upset about that? How are you writing life insurance? How are you writing an umbrella? How are you writing a personal article policy? Right? So we spend a lot of time with diffusing and connecting with people emotionally, so that they're not looking at us like we're just, crooks that are just trying to squeeze more premium out of them, and that it's them versus us. We try to break those walls down and let them see. And the way we do it is to connect with them emotionally through the things that we say and the things that we do, to kind of get them to open up a little bit, relax a little bit, which now offers us more of an opportunity to help them.
Yeah. And Ryan, I want to dive into that a little bit more, because I think that this is a common pain point that we're all running across in the industry is, how do I teach that to my team? Like, yeah, it's great to say, let's connect emotionally and let's turn a complaint into a lifelong customer.
Diffuse the
situation.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of inbound phone calls that are coming in for just what you're saying, changes in rate, questions about policies. So how do you train, walk us through what that looks like to actually coach and train your team to that?
Yeah. So the first thing I'll do is I'll remind myself every day, and I'll remind my team that email that might be from a upset customer, or phone call or walk-in from an upset customer over a rate increase, we should be thankful for that. And they'll look at me like, why? Why? Because they could have just went and got a policy somewhere else and then faxed us over a request to cancel. Now our job to get them to stay is so much harder. So the fact that they're calling us, see, it's all about mindset, okay? Even if you have to trick yourself to think it, right? And there's always exceptions. We all know that, right? There's some people that just want to scream at you and there's no chance, right? But the majority of the people, even if they've been with us for only a year or they've been with us for 30 years, if they call us up, they're giving us the opportunity. They're basically saying help. They're basically saying, to some extent, not every time, but in most cases, I don't want to leave, so help me stay, right? So the first thing I'll coach my team on doing is thanking them. Make sure you thank them. Hey, Mrs. Smith, I know you're upset. We understand. We're customers just like you. So much of our expenses have gone up as well, but I want to thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy, to give us a call, to let us know your concerns about your policy. Here's the good news. We say the phrase good news in my office probably 30 times a day in a variety of different ways, different systems. But it's truthful. It's not fake, right? It doesn't sound rehearsed, and because it comes from the heart. And we'll say, here's the good news, Mrs. Smith. You're with our office. So we're not just going to give you some generic response to your concern about your rates. We're going to take the time and effort to go over your policy, to find smart ways of trying to offset the rate increase. And you know what, Mrs. Smith? We may not find those solutions, but I can assure you we're going to give it our best effort to try to help you, because we don't want you to leave. Most of our customers don't leave us, and we're very proud of that. So let's take a look at your policy. Let's go over a few things, a few discounts that State Farm has to offer that we don't see you taking advantage of, to see if we can offset that rate increase. But it starts with just thanking you again for giving me the chance to try to help you. So that's just one version of what it sounds like, right? And it's, in my experience, very rare, for a customer. Most of them, will say to us, I don't think I've ever had a conversation with an insurance person like this before, and I just want to thank you for taking the time. Right? So now they're thanking us, not in every case, but in a lot of cases. So that's a sample.
I love it. Customers just want to be seen and heard. And that's exactly what you're doing. And I love how you kind of put the crowd effect in there, as far as most of our customers don't leave us, and we're proud of that. And I love how you're sticking that in that conversation, because that automatically gets the customer already thinking like, oh, they have these conversations all the time, and other customers just like me are happy with them, and I'm not going to leave either.
Yeah.
Well, and I want to touch a little bit on the mindset piece of this, because Brian, you're on the East Coast. And a lot of things that we hear is, well, based on my location, I'm running into they just care about price. They're very fast moving. They want to get it done. We hear this a lot on the East Coast. So I love that you're bringing this up and that you're having success with it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And this just popped into my head, and I think it's important to just really cover it real quick. Sometimes we'll do this. We'll say, hey, I just want you to know, Mrs. Smith, that, insurance has always been based on where you live, right? And so, I know that you're in so-and-so zip code. So if we see that they're in a zip code, right, and most agents and team members know what zip codes are more expensive than others. So don't be a fool. If you're talking to a customer that's in one of those zip codes where the rates tend to be higher, say to them, Mrs. Smith, I just want to make a point, because what I don't want you to lose faith in is State Farm. So if I were to requote your policy right now and say blah, blah, blah zip code, right? Same State Farm, same company, same Mrs. Smith, same car, same coverages, same everything, just different part of the state. Do you know that your rate goes down by $160 every 6 months? So as much as it's easy to point the finger at State Farm and say it's your fault, some of it has to do with where we live. Right. And then sometimes we'll pick on our buddies and friends in the city in New York. We'll say, can you imagine what your rate would do if I updated it to Bronx or Brooklyn? Right. Yep. Oh, my gosh, I can't even imagine. So what are we doing there? We're helping them understand how insurance works. And we're also letting them know, hey, it's the same State Farm. Don't hate State Farm. Part of it, some of it. Right. And then, of course, we're talking about inflation. Right. $11 for green grapes I bought at ShopRite over the weekend. $11 for grapes, right? This is the reality we live in. So
that's right.
That's some of what we do.
That's right. That's so good, though. That is excellent, because what you just said, you're helping the customer actually understand insurance, the difference in ratings in a way they can understand. And then what you just said, everything's going up. Like insurance is going to go up too. That's just part of it.
All I can think, and this is why I'm the buzz and you're the insurance. All I can think is, don't hate the player, hate the game.
Right.
Like, that's the only thing that's going through my head.
Yeah, I was going through mine too, and I'm like, don't say it. Let them say it. Don't you be the one that says it. Yeah.
No, this is a buzz, baby. We getting buzz. Say whatever comes to your mind. I
love it.
All right. I do want to dig in, though, just real fast, since we're talking about these rate increase calls. This is something that's going on industry-wide. It doesn't matter what company. So how, from a mindset standpoint, and this can be leadership as well, how are you keeping your team positive in the current environment we're in? Because as a team member, a producer, they deal with so much negative energy throughout the day. So how are you really making sure that your office stays positive, stays optimistic, continues that culture that you've tried to establish?
Yeah, so that's done in a variety of ways. So just to kind of go off the top of my head, I'll start with this as an example. As the agent, now I happen to also have an office manager, okay? If we're picking up on someone that's having a bad day, we're going to reach out to them in a private, individual way to let them know, hey, how you doing today? You seem a little down. Is everything okay? Right? So just taking that little extra step. Okay, I worked for State Farm on the inside for many years. I can count on one hand how many managers took the time and effort to reach out to me when I was noticeably having a bad day. Okay, so we do that where we can. Okay. The other thing that we practice is positive mindset. Now, this doesn't fly with every one of my team members, but with most of them. Think about anything that we do, if we want to do it better, we generally have to practice at it, right? If we want to get stronger, we got to go to the gym, right? If we want to get healthier, we have to exercise. If we want to get smarter, we have to read or whatever. You get my point. So with mindset, which again, doesn't fly for everybody, not even in my office it doesn't. One in particular that just can't buy into it. He's getting there. But every morning on the way into work and on the way home, we're listening to some form of mindset. A lot of it is through YouTube. And I've talked to a lot of agents about this. I said, you have to exercise your brain. You can't expect to be in this job because it's a tough gig, is it not? I mean, it is a tough gig, and it will break you down and keep you there if you let it. Yeah. And if you think you're being beat down, how do you think your team is, right? So if there are resources that could help us get a stronger mindset, maybe a reminder, a refresher, right? We'd be crazy not to tap into that. So it might sound so simple, but it has been so effective. So effective. I can actually tell, and my team can tell about me, when they walk in the office, if they've been listening to some mindset stuff, you could just tell. It's just it puts things in perspective. So that's where I would start. And there's all kinds of motivational apps that you can download and listen to. But again, it's just like anything else. If you want to get your mind in the right place, you have to work at it. You can't just say, I need to be more positive and expect it to happen, right? So, and if we have a bad moment, and we call each other out on that, we'll say, do you need 5 minutes? Right? So it's just little things like that. Why don't you step outside, go for a walk, come back? So it's little things like that. But, we're just watching each other's back, trying to keep each other positive, tapping into resources, and the last thing I'll say is keeping that, work-life balance, and how I did not have that in balance for the longest time. To the point where I was incredibly unhealthy, way in a bad place, both physically and mentally, and had a major wake up call, which is why I'm in such a more positive mindset now as a result of that.
So I'm curious to the one person who is not bought in, what the process looks like. Because it's great when everyone's doing the thing and you're like, yeah, we're all banging on the mindset drum. But the person that isn't quite there yet, what does the process look like around that person?
Yeah.
Are you still continuing to hold them accountable? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I said to him, look, I get it. For you, listening to Will Smith for 5 minutes is not what's going to get you motivated and feeling good. So the question I have for you is, what's going to help offset, the bad days? Is it, watching television? Is it going for a walk? And then he opened up to me about, personal time, and, he likes to read, So I said, okay. So, instead of diving into motivational videos, if reading is your escape to get your mind in the right place, I said, why not read books on motivation? So we've incorporated some of that on lunch, right? Instead of, working email, or any of that, right? He's now incorporating some of the things that give him that balance. The other thing too that I recommended was reconnecting with old friends. Have you guys ever done this? This can have such a major, like, people that you adore, appreciate, respect, but for one reason or another, you just lost that connection. Reconnecting with an old friend can just do so much benefit. So that's something also that I recommended, and that he took his advice. So as a result of some of these things, right? So it's doing it his way. and not forcing my way. And I think as agents, sometimes we, get that it's my way or the highway kind of mentality. And frankly, I think that's a major, major mistake, which I did early on in my career. And now it's more about, what works for you.
Yeah.
I'm glad you bring that up, because I think that's how a lot of us were brought in to the industry, and even watching maybe our parents or other businesses throughout our life, like my way or the highway. I don't think that tactic's ever really been effective, but especially in the environment we're in now with the individuals that we are leading, it seems like the younger generation's so much more aware and outspoken to be like, yo, you're not, no, that's not going to fly. And so I love that you're touching base on that.
So I was listening to a podcast today, and it was talking about the same concept, and she called it joy conditioning. And you made a list of everything that brought you joy. And you started working through that list, and you picked like a specific thing, and then you found a scent, like a smell, because it's so strong tied to memory. And anytime you were in a stressful situation, maybe it was the smell of lavender, maybe it was the smell of like fresh cut grass, you get an essential oil for that. Something could like kind of offset in your brain, because we seek so many times to solve a problem, which can be overwhelming and take us down a negative mindset. So I love that you brought this up.
No, and I appreciate, you bringing that up as well. And, I've had the opportunity to go around the country and meet with several agents and team members through the State Farm Speakers Network. And I, the biggest eye-opening thing that I experienced is how many of us are hurting. Like having agents and team members open up to me, and it's not even about the life insurance systems, but thankfully what they got from my presentation was, I got to start here. I got to start in my head. I'm not in a good place. I don't get excited to get up and go into work every day. And I'm the agent. So how the hell can I expect my team to get excited when I'm not excited? So as much as we want to like make fun of this motivational stuff and get positive and all that, which again, I was in a very, very, very bad place in my head. Very bad. And, so I speak from experience in terms of, getting out of that hole and getting to a more positive mindset. But how do you get there and how do you stay there is the key. And once I figured that out, that's when my office went from here to here. We were always generally good. We were, in terms of the State Farm stuff, we were level 3 for 9 years in a row. And then, it was how do we get to that next level? And sometimes guess where the problem is, right? Mm-hmm. The problem's here. So I think that if we just put our guard down a little bit, be a little bit more vulnerable, okay, admit that there's parts of us that need to get better and stronger, and a lot of it is mentality, the mental state of mind, and work on that, just like you work on life leads, and get that in a good place, and then work to get your team in a better place with that, all of a sudden that success doesn't seem so difficult. At least that was my experience.
Yep. Well, it all starts with you.
Yeah.
You have to lead yourself before you can lead others, and you have to be in a good state of mind, which is exactly what you're talking about. Even though, and what you're saying is how can you consistently stay there?
Yeah.
And speaking from experience, overall, I'm just a pretty optimistic individual, but there are going to be times throughout your career and life to where you will be faced with challenges that may send you down the negative spiral or that depression spiral or whatever. It's the consistent habits that you're talking about that will pull you out of those and to make sure they don't last as long. So,
you know what the pain in the ass is out of all of this? Is once you figure it out, then you're like, man, now I got to do it every day.
Yes, absolutely.
like that's
so
the thing. True. You don't get to stop. You're like, oh, I know what I need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. But, it's like anything else. Like, I don't know if you guys are into running or whatever, but, generally speaking, after a run, no one ever has a regret. Right. But you regret not running. Right. But after the run. Right. No one generally has a regret for running. So, it's that sense of relief or positiveness. And I just did it the other day. I was, it was just one bad thing after the next. And so when I stepped out of the office for about an hour or two, I just drowned myself in some of the positive mindset videos and literally felt better coming in. Just you just need that gentle reminder sometimes, to put things in perspective.
So before we wrap up, I have to know, because I know we've been talking a lot about mindset and we've been very much into like how we feel. I'm going to get gritty here.
Yeah,
and I want to talk about life insurance.
Yep.
Like I want to go for life insurance. So you have 2 producers in your office. Are they specialists?
Yes.
Are they life specialists?
Yes.
Okay. Now you're like crushing numbers with life. So I'm not asking for the secret sauce, but I am asking for the secret sauce.
No problem.
I need to know what's in that Chick-fil-A sauce for life insurance.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, love it.
I want to hear kind of your process, how you stay motivated. Like, how are we incentivizing? Like, let's talk about life.
Yep, absolutely. So, first of all, I have a variety of different promotions. I do talk about promotions. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about it.
Okay, so
we can edit it later if we need to.
Okay, there you go. There you go. So I have a bingo card. Okay, and on there it's not just life insurance, although the agent can make it whatever he or she wants, right? So that's a monthly. And it's just like bingo. So every bingo I do is $100, right? And it's auto, fire, and life on there, right? And the squares are all different. I also have jars, and these are weeklies. There's bingo chips in there. So if they do, in my case, if they do 3 P&C in a week, that equals 1 pull out of the P&C jar. For every life insurance application submitted, they get to pull out of the life insurance jar. And then I also have a wheel, which I'll bring out from time to time. And like when I was away for the last couple weeks. So while I was away, I brought the wheel out. I said, on top of everything else, for every life insurance application that you submit, you get, if it's, this week, you're going to get if it's 1 to 4 as a team, you get 1 spin for every life. If it's 5 to 9, you get 2 spins for every life, and then 10 or more, right? And they wrote 15 life policies while I was out, which is great. So, but guess what? It started with me making sure you find people that are motivated by what? Money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I'm not saying that's the only type of people that you need to have on your team, but they're motivated by money. Okay? So when it comes to me wanting to, push a particular thing, I got to put some money in front of it. I know how I get paid. That's also important, making sure you understand how you get paid. Yeah. But so here's where it all starts with volume. So, where are you finding it? So if you have a book of business, right, making sure that you're running lists on a regular basis. So the list that we love is what's called the I report or J report, right? It's all of the life insurance policies for those State Farm customers or State Farm agents. Because you know who the easiest people are to help with life insurance? People that have life insurance.
Those that believe in life insurance, baby.
Hello, right? And there's so much opportunity. So I've done a lot of coaching about looking at the I report. And so, if you wrote a term policy for a customer, there's a good possibility they might need some form of whole life. If you did a whole life policy, there's a good possibility they might need term, right? And let's say we did the old State Farm final expense policies, okay? And now fast forward, right? We have the new guaranteed issued final expense. Now they can double their coverage. So there's so many opportunities. Look at our commercial clients, right? Running reports of our biggest life cases came from commercial customers who generally don't have any type of benefit life insurance whatsoever. So are you running a report and pulling out your commercial customers? People that have multiple RDPs and RCUP policies, right? These are the people you need to be going after. And here's the biggest. So we were doing that, and that was getting us that level 3, consistently chairman's circle, right, every single year. But then again, it's I don't want 100%. I want 110, and once I get 110, I want 120. Here's where we were missing it: transactional life insurance. We were missing the opportunity. I call it transactional life insurance. That's when the customer calls up and says, I want an auto insurance quote. right? We have no problem. For the longest time in my office, we had no problem pivoting to the what? Fire, right? Pivoting to that renters, pivoting to that condo or that homeowners. But where we would struggle in my office for the last several years was getting into that life insurance conversation until I decided to have a conversation with myself, and it kind of went like this. Am I okay having John Smith, the prospect, call my office up on a Monday morning and we quote his auto, and because we're cheaper and we're nice, we write his auto, and my team was good enough to pivot, and we wrote the homeowners as well. But 2 days later, I'm asking myself this question as the agent first. 2 days later, his family calls and lets us know that he died in a tragic accident, heaven forbid. Am I okay as the agent where my value at that moment is to simply cancel his policies or put in a claim because he's no longer with us? Am I okay with that? If I'm okay with that, keep doing it the way you're doing it. Well, clearly the answer, when I was being honest with myself, was absolutely not. I am not okay with that. So if I'm not okay with that, I need to have a conversation with my team members. And I'm going to ask them a similar question. Hey, Greg, are you okay writing the auto renters 2 days later, family calls, and your value as a licensed team member for State Farm, the #1 insurance company in the country, where your value is to simply cancel the policy? Or if you wrote the homeowners and it's a husband and wife, and now the husband's no longer there, and your value is to simply amend the homeowners to take his name or remove him as a driver or cancel one of the cars, if you're okay with that, keep doing what you're doing. But if you're not, we need to change the way we do things. Like that. It changed. Because then I added one last thing. Because here's what's going to happen. Because it needs to. It's the right thing. If you write an auto in renters, and the customer does pass away, heaven forbid, 2 days later, and the phone call comes in from the family, I'm giving you the phone. You explain to the family. Where had you just taken a little extra time and effort to just ask the question, hey, John, did you know State Farm helps thousands of people a day with life insurance protection? We just saved you $70 a month compared to what you were paying. What if I were to show you a way where I can protect you with the smallest, even if it's the smallest, cheapest life insurance policy that we have, but it's more than what you have right now, where your monthly bill is still less than what you were paying before, but now you're better protected with State Farm? Would you give me that opportunity? 90% of the calls coming in. So that's where we went from good to great. Guess what we did there? We connected emotionally. We put ourselves in the hot seat and said, are we okay taking that phone call from the family member? Knowing in our own head that had we just taken a little extra time and effort to ask, we could have been handing a check over for some life insurance. Instead, we're just going to cancel a policy.
No, I love that you bring up the transactional selling, because
this is a tough word, though. Let's be honest. This transactional selling makes people squirm, and anyone listening is you're either.
And look, and I'm one that says transactional selling is trash. But what you're in this, but here we go. And I want to clarify this, because you can do transactional selling in a value-based, relationship-based manner. All right, and so. Because this is something that you were brought up in the world. I was brought up in the world. Like, we were always told, don't do this. Like, it's bad. Like, the customer's not going to keep it. You may get in trouble. Because there were a lot of coaches and trainers out there at the time. And there are even still some today that will coach to your team to even not really bring up the educational fact of what they're doing and just slapping policies on. Yep. And that is not what you're saying. I can tell what the question you're asking. I'm actually a fan. I've always said, quote, so much coverage they can't tell you no. I actually think life insurance, auto home, aren't you talking about a mortgage payoff protector plan? Hey, talking to an auto renters, you can talk about a debt payoff protector plan. They have debt as well. So just talking about things that add value to the conversation, because you actually should be more expensive. I could care less if you're saving people or not. But by having this conversation, you are automatically different than anybody else out there having a conversation with them.
And Ryan, I love what you brought up because again, transactional selling, people squirm. They're like, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to sell like that. I don't necessarily think what you're teaching is transactional. I think what you're doing, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm okay. I'm okay with being wrong. But what I love what you're doing is you're holding your team accountable to not having the conversation. Like if you are not willing to bring this up, then you have to be the person that deals with the call when it's a death claim.
That's right.
Like that.
Yeah.
And I think that is the power, because so many of us as agents and owners, we take that on. Like we're the ones who are like, okay, I'll stay up all night wondering if I asked enough questions. Whereas when we have our team, and we're bringing it full circle, because in the very beginning, you said that you want them to have skin in the game. You want them to have ownership. Like this is a part of their business too. So I'm pumped that you said that.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to add one more quick thing, because I know that we don't have that much time left, but here's another difference that we feel we make with those transactional life insurance. We have follow-up systems, right? So we're and I make it very clear to my team, this isn't stacking it. This isn't trying to throw it against the wall. You have to incorporate the value, even if it's a younger person. Okay, ask them if they're comfortable with their family passing a hat around the room to cover their final expenses, right? Ask them if they're okay with that. If they're okay with that, move on. Most people are going to say, no, I'm not comfortable with that. Okay, but here's the difference. Remember that I report I talked about? So now here we are, right? After you've been doing this consistently, and maybe they're smaller policies. Maybe they're $100,000 20 or 30-year terms on the front end when you're doing the auto and the renters. Maybe they're $25,000 whole lives. Maybe they're the guaranteed issued final expense policy if you're in a state right now that offers that. But then you have the follow-up process where now you're pulling out the report a year later. Every January, we print that report off, and it does not leave our desk until the end of the year, because then we shred it and we reprint it. Because those are the people that you helped the year, the 2 years, the 3 years, the 30 years before, whatever it is, where it's time to check in with them. Hey, Jane, remember that $100,000 20-year term that we wrote you last year, 2 years ago, when you called us up and we helped you with the auto and the home? Yeah, I remember that. Did you know that you have a conversion credit built into that policy, where if you're interested and there's a need, I want to talk to you about the benefit, right? And now here you go into you're talking about term convert. Our largest term conversions have come from transactional life insurance policies, but not having a follow-up process and just trying to throw it against the wall to get an app count, 100% agree with you guys, right? But, build the value into it on the initial. Depending on the customer, how far do you go with that, right? You're going to gauge that and figure that out. But then the follow-up process is now going back to all those people you helped with the transactional life insurance to let them know about the additional benefits that come with that policy.
Yep. Well, shoot, and what you just said comes to mind as well, because I used to, as a producer, when I started off working with an agent, it was just mainly auto fire back then, but I would always ask at the end of the conversation, this is something I did my last year as a producer before I became an agent, was, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, I have to apologize. All right, before I let you off the phone, I forgot to bring up life insurance. Tell me a little bit about what your life insurance plan looks like through work, because buying momentum is so high. Right there, they gave you payment information. So if you're not talking about it in the upfront conversation, then you got to be bringing up when the buying momentum is extremely high. You need to be having onboarding appointments with your customers. So I want to give multiple options here, just for people to be like, oh, that sounds great. But I am a fan, like auto, home, you should be talking mortgage payoff protectors. Debt payoff protectors, just anything. So Ryan, this has been fantastic. So much valuable information.
Appreciate the opportunity.
So if somebody wanted to follow you, connect with you, what's the easiest way for them to do that?
Yeah. So easiest way is, probably the State Farm email system. My alias is P like Peter 8GB. Also, we can connect on social media. I have platforms on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn as another, or just call the office or through the State Farm Teams network if you want to connect with me that way. Would love the opportunity to talk and kind of take it from there.
Ryan, we'll put all of that in the show notes. I love seeing that 4-digit alias. Get excited.
That's a hot potato right now is the 4-digit
Yeah,
alias.
I know. I'm like, wow, it's a 4-digit. I like it. Yeah, we'll make sure if you're listening and you want to connect with Ryan, we'll put all of his social media handles and how you can connect with him in the show notes.
Yeah. So Ryan, we appreciate you. For you that's listening, thank you so much for your support. We appreciate you. If you enjoyed today's episode as much as we did, please leave us a 5-star review. Shoot us a text. Let us know, 816-727-7610. I would love to personally know your biggest takeaway from the episode. As always, time is the most valuable and important asset that we all have. I appreciate you spending time with us today. Thank you so much. Make it a great day. Ryan, thanks again.